Hi, Sweet Mornings community. Even though today I, we, Austin's here. He's producer. Brendan's here. I am relaunching Sweet Mornings, rebranding. We are now with Hat and Cattle. So if you're from Texas or I feel maybe from the South, you know the expression all hat, no cattle. And that is someone who talks the talk but doesn't walk the walk. And we are here with people who are doing both, walking the walk and talking the talk. Today we have Brandon Denmon, who is with Systems and Soul, Peak Executive Solutions. I'm sorry, Peak Executive Coaching. Is that right?
Big executive solutions. Yeah, that's
I was
fine.
right the first time. All right,
Yeah, yeah.
I am running on a little bit of fumes today, but that's okay
No worries.
because this conversation is just going to get it going. And he also just recently became a Vistage Chair. But when we were talking during our virtual coffee last week, he mentioned that he has a rodeo background. And I said, Brandon, I need to have you on the podcast under the new name. It just fit. And I believe things happen for a reason. I believe that conversation was meant to happen. And
Yeah.
he's meant to sit with us today and share his story. So, Brandon, welcome.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me. I didn't know I was going to get to talk about rodeo. It's been a while since I got to do that, but I think I can still do it. Maybe not ride the bulls anymore, but in fact, definitely not ride the bulls anymore. I think I got
That's what I
hurt
was
riding a
gonna so is
mechanical
that what
bull.
you did? Because you didn't touch you just kinda mentioned that you enjoy endurance sports, and it all started with your rodeo background, and I was like, "Wait a sec, what?" So,
I
what
know.
exactly did you do?
Yeah. So I started out riding bulls, and then I got into bareback riding, so riding horses without a saddle, with a hat for your audience. But the hat stayed on sometimes. But yeah, I did both. I rode bulls and bareback horses in high school, a little bit in college, and then when I went to engineering school, I started trying to keep from getting kicked in the head and lose what I
So,
had.
when you say in high school, how old were you?
I guess when I started, maybe 13, 14, something like that, like eighth grade, ninth grade. I
And
fell
do
into a
the same rules
community of crazy people, and I just adopted all the ways, but kind of grew up a
Yeah.
little bit country, if you want to call it
Do the
that. And
same rules apply? You have to hang on for 8 seconds?
oh yeah, you don't get a break just because you're in high school. There's no like closer 3 point line or anything like there is, and
Are and are these
uh,
older bulls? Are they, are they
they're
like
regular
furry?
bulls. They're regular bulls. Yeah, they're pretty big, 2,000 pounds, give or take.
What
Yeah.
So now, I mean, we are kinda understanding why you can take that leap of faith and become the entrepreneur, the businessman, w I'm I'm a little speechless because I don't know I mean, I've been around I was in FFA. I don't believe
Okay.
anyone that I knew rode bulls. I think they did, like, the team roping, but what does it take
Those were the
to
smart
be
guys.
Yeah. To be so young and think, "I can do that. I can ride this bull for 8 seconds." Like, what what does that take
Yeah.
in your opinion?
Yeah. I guess part of it is just um, courage.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it lack of fear because that wasn't true. There was always just that fear, like, hey, I'm getting on this animal. What's it going to do? But part of it is perhaps just trying to gain control of something, anything in your life. And
Yeah.
there was a lot of people around that I was friends with, and we had some similarities in the way we were brought up, our families, our backgrounds. So I think that was part of it. Just it was community was
Uh-huh.
one thing, and I believe in community. We probably talk about Vistage later on, or peer groups. But it was high intensity, high
That's an
risk,
understatement.
which is kind of like starting a business, right? It's high risk. You
100%.
kind of
So,
take a leap of faith. You jump on the back of this 2,000 pound animal. When they let it out, you're on your own, except for a couple of
yeah.
clowns in the arena that might save you if you get hung up or something. Um,
So that leads me to my next question. Was there a moment you found yourself in trouble on a bull?
Uh, y- yeah, most of the time. Uh, I mean, it is. It's wild. You don't like. There was a bunch of times I broke plenty of bones, and
Mm,
I remember one time. I think it was probably my junior year of high school. I got hung up in the rope, uh, and I was still on the bull. It's turning back to the left, and I was riding left-handed, and there was a reason for that because my right hand was hurt. I
mm,
cut my fingers uh, in an accident at work. So I'm riding left-handed. It's all this wrist stuff, I guess. And my left leg came across and hit my left arm. I don't know. You probably can see it. See that scar? That's about a
yeah, we can see it.
40 something year old scar. Um, yeah, and I broke my arm. I got up. You could see it. There was pictures of it, and my arm's like shaped funny. So I go to the paramedics, and they're like, rub some dirt in it, okay? And that was pretty much the way it went back then. And of course, I drove home. I drove a stick shift truck.
Of
That was
course you
that was
did.
a challenge. Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
it was rite of passage. And of course, the next day I went to the doctor. He said, "Are you kidding me?" He said, "This thing is broken so bad. I ended up with like 5 surgeries and metal
Oh
plates and
my
all this stuff."
gosh.
But I was back to riding in 3 weeks.
Of
That
course.
actually, now that I think about it, is how I started riding horses because I couldn't ride bulls for a little bit, but I
Mhm.
could ride horses in my cast. So that might have been the reason why it wasn't only bulls. But I really
Yeah.
fell in love with riding horses, and I'm a bigger guy for a rodeo guy. Most of the bull riders are pretty small. I don't know if you've ever met any other ones, but
Mm-mm.
they tend to be, I think, 5'7",
Okay.
160, and I was more like 6 foot, 190. In those days.
So
So
you have this spirit of adventure and you've taken it with you as you've grown. You mentioned you have an engineering background, but you are not an engineer. That's correct?
I'm not doing engineering work. I guess I'm technically still an engineer. I went to engineering school at Texas Tech and mechanical engineering. And I thought,
Okay.
my background was really blue collar. I grew up um,
Mm,
working with my grandfather a lot because my folks
yep.
got divorced when I was young, and it's just part of my story.
Right.
Um, but I found, and part of it's because of that background, um, and divorce does a lot of things, but one of the things it did to me is it made me keenly aware of the people around me and how they felt, and the
Mhm.
room that you're in, and kind of like surveying the room for what shoe's going to drop.
Right.
And so when I went to work in these manufacturing sites, I mean, even as a 16-year-old, I was very aware of the people around me, how they were treated. I learned a lot about bad bosses
Mm.
and finally about a good boss, and kind of changed my life. I got into really M&A
Yeah.
work, and in the building products business, I was the COO of a brick manufacturing company and a roof tile manufacturing company over time. So it was
Mm.
really about the people, right? So I had engineering reported to me, but I did no engineering at all. That was not my
Mhm.
that was their job, not mine. And they learned over time that I would uh, adjust the plan, but I was never going to do the engineering, and they didn't want me to. Uh,
Yeah.
that's
So
that-
and I must apologize because you are 100% correct. You may not be an engineer by title today, but you do have that background. So again, I yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No worries, no worries. I resemble all of that, and I'd like to think I could do some engineering, and I think I would say that every school is different. So when I hired engineers over time, I focused on really three things. They had to
Mm,
grow up on a farm or have some background in
mhm,
having to work hard when they grew up. Um, Obviously, that meant that they probably had some practical skills in addition to their analytical skills that you learn in engineering school. And then there was 2 or 3 engineering schools that I hired from.
Go back to
Right
what
in
you
shape.
said about hiring people who have that farming background or that ranching background. I saw, and I wish I had
Mhm.
saved it, but it was basically like an op-ed, an editorial piece about a basically someone who had that position to hire people. And a young person came to him and said, I don't have a lot of experience. You know, all I did was work on the family farm. And he goes, oh my God, I want to see your resume because that tells, I already know that you woke up early to go take care of the animals. You
Yep.
did certain things that needed to be done in order to keep that, farm going. And it took me back to
Right.
my
Right.
4-H, my FFA days where, you raise an animal to take it to auction, and it's a totally different environment. If you didn't grow up in that world, you don't understand it. But, before school, you are if, you have a goat or a sheep, you're walking it, you or sometimes
Right. What did you
I
have? Did you
did,
have a
I did
goat?
have a goat. We
Okay.
did rabbits
Danny the
mainly,
goat rancher.
and but every now and then we had the goat, and it was much harder to part with the goat. Like, that's why I didn't want to really do it. But that's a life lesson in and of itself as well, when you have to raise something that eventually, either you or someone else is gonna eat. It's different, and for someone who is, I
Yeah.
call myself an
Yeah.
empath, but it's very intuitive, very everything's on feelings. I mean, it was hard. It was hard to raise the goat, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I can kinda see that, like, and I know part of your passion is
Yes.
saving the orcas, right? And so, I know you're an animal person, you got a dog that causes you strife sometimes, maybe even today. But yeah, so I could imagine you thinking like, "Hey, we're gonna sell this goat at the county fair or whatever," and then somebody's perhaps gonna have,
Yeah, I mean,
goat for
I am
dinner.
the person who I went to school, came back, and my duck had been made for dinner. Like, it was yeah, it's
Oh
what
my
it
gosh.
is. So, but in your experience, I would like to double click on that, on your opinion, why hiring someone who came from that ranching or farming background is an asset.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a really good question, and I think here's what I saw, and it really is in line with what you said, right? They were used to getting up early. They had responsibility. It wasn't a choice, right? They got up. They worked hard. They worked with their hands. They had to solve problems, sometimes without all the tools. Um, and so they were ingenuitive, right? And they didn't mind working hard, and they tended to count on others in the community. It wasn't just about them, right? It was most farms, it's not just a one person thing, right? Everybody has their job. They focus. They count on each other. They hold each other responsible. And so you add that to the discipline of going
Mhm.
to engineering school. There's a magic formula there in people that really move the needle. So I think just people that grew up a little bit harder had a different mindset about hard work, about the value of people that didn't necessarily go to school, that were working the front line, that worked with their hands. They valued that. And so you could feel that in their leadership style and those sort of things. I think all those things added together made for what I consider the
Yeah.
best employees.
Now, several times during this conversation, you've mentioned community, and that's we actually connected via a networking summit. Basically, it wasn't just a happy hour. I was invited to go to a 3-day
Right.
business summit, and you were there along with several other people. Actually, you know what? I don't want to lie. We did meet initially at a happy hour, but we didn't really speak. Yeah, we met at a
We
happy
did?
hour in Flower Mound.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, community. And one of my favorite
Yeah.
quotes is Jim Rohn's, "You are a result of the 5 people that you spend the most time with." Yeah, and so
Okay.
you grew
Good.
up in a community of it seemed like high achievers, honestly, And you keep it seems, and I'm making an assumption now, that you have managed to
Yeah.
keep yourself
Okay.
surrounded with high functioning, high level people. Is that correct?
Well, I don't know if I would say that per se. Like I think people had
Mhm.
high aspirations. Whether they achieved or not was a mixed bag, and that's probably pretty standard. But I think I grew up in a community of people that really push themselves, right, to do hard things, to take on things that others might not do, or that other people that would be fearful of, right, and to have the courage to do those hard things. And as you said earlier, I continue to do those things because I think it builds margin into your life. A lot of what you'll hear me talk about in high performance teams is about creating
Mhm.
that margin, right? You want to be able to work hard. Sometimes it is going to require that 70, that 80-hour week, especially if you're an entrepreneur or
Yeah.
you're in manufacturing, because it's frying pan. And but you got to be very deliberate in taking those periods of rest, right? It's I know you're
Yes.
training for Ironman. You can't just go out and ride 100 miles every day and expect you're going to have high performance, right? You got to break the workouts up into the long rides, the short rides, high intensity rides, the easy rides, and then periods of rest so that your body recovers, so that your mind recovers. And so I compare all of these things, and I think there's a very great correlation between
Mhm.
that and business. Is that you've got to take those periods where you're super focused, you're working on the hard things, but then you've got to be deliberate about taking some time to clear your head, go on a walk, do whatever it is that brings you rest and build your energy back, building margin, I call it. So you build that high end margin by working hard, by
Mhm.
doing hard things, and then you gain extra margin by taking that rest. So your work space is in here, right? And sometimes you got to go above that margin level, and we see that a lot begin this time of the year with our clients. Right? They're really busting it trying to get the
Yes.
year started right, and hopefully they have a good plan and good team.
So and as you're talking,
Yeah,
definitely we can see why you are a business coach or an executive coach with Vistage, and that was a recent decision to become a chair.
yeah,
Of course, I'm looking at it from the
yeah,
outside,
yeah.
right? Maybe it wasn't a recent decision, but tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'll walk you to it. So obviously, I'll
Okay.
back you up a few years. So as I said, I ran a building products
Mhm.
company as a COO. 30 years worth of sort of M&A work. My piece in that was really more around integration, right? So we'd buy these businesses. Some of them were family owned. Some of them came through mergers with private equity, that sort of thing. But the integration of that means that you've got to get alignment with the people, getting the right people, getting the right processes, and I would say engineering the right culture
Mhm.
that you want to see in your businesses, right? Which is a combination of your values and the habits that you hold dear, right? The things that you're gonna do, they're on your calendar. You agree with one another. We're gonna do these things. So my piece was the integration. We sold that business a little over 4 years
Congrats. That's a
ago,
big deal.
and yeah, thanks. Yeah, it was big. It was a big deal, and it was painful. That's a whole nother episode. Um, but in the end, I left, and I did a few other things in the middle. I did some fractional work trying to help small, medium sized manufacturing businesses, systems, processes, culture. And in the middle of all that, I figured out that coaching was really what I was doing all along, coaching the people, sometimes coaching myself, coaching the business, and growing a business. So I think, that was kind of natural. And I started doing some speaking, doing
Mhm.
some workshops in the Vistage community around creating a roadmap for your business, helping people understand what's my business identity, what makes us special, different, and attracts not just our customers, but our employees to come to work here. What
Yeah.
culture do we want to see? what values are actually real in this business. And so, um, in speaking at Vistage, what I saw in these communities, these are CEOs of mostly middle market, think, 10 million and above, maybe up to 150 million in revenue. They come
Mhm.
together monthly to share experience. You've heard this, and it's true.
Yeah.
It's lonely at the top. Sometimes you don't have people to share with. You don't have somebody that you can get vulnerable with. So they come together, they share experiences ver- sorry, vulnerably, and they solve
Mm.
problems together. And the resources that are there for these folks, they really just help their
Mm.
business grow and execute with. I'm going to call it less stress is
Yeah.
probably the right way to say it. But their businesses tend to last longer and they tend to
Mhm.
grow faster because of the community. And so I just, when I saw this, I said, well, this is the answer to your question in a bunch of words. I said, I want to be part of that, not just speaking to the groups, but I'd like to have a group that I can help
Mhm.
them grow, not because I know everything, but because they
Right.
do, right? And the power of that community, the amount of experiences they have, where they've been, the problems they solve, people, process, product management, whether you need an attorney or whether you need somebody to simply come along and evaluate your business for sale. We've got all those tools in Vistage, which is super powerful.
Yeah, you touched on something I feel is so important, vulnerability. And that the last episode, our last guest mentioned, getting the conversation, was a bit vulnerable. And I was like, well, I personally don't know any other
Okay.
way to be. But when you get
Okay. All right.
yeah,
Good for you.
when you have people in your coaching group, I mean, getting vulnerable, it's not it's not easy. It requires a lot of trust.
No,
So, yeah,
it
how
does.
how do you navigate that?
Patrick Lencioni writes a lot about building teams and creating trust. And he wrote a book, I don't know how old it is, maybe 6, 7, 8, might be 10 years old, called The Five
Mm,
Dysfunctions of a Team. In this book, it's parable
yeah.
style, which makes it fun to read. So it's a story, right? He just talks about how do you create, what are the things that create trust and vulnerability and holding people accountable. And the foundation of all that, as you just said, is trust, right? It's hard to be vulnerable if you don't trust that
Mhm,
somebody has your back, or you don't know how they're going to respond, perhaps, or they respond different every time, right? It's about being
right.
consistent. So one of the things I do is try to get people to open up about their past. What makes them who they are? Tell me about a time when somebody got you wrong, when they didn't quite
Mm,
understand you. And I think some of these exercises that we go through help people feel like, hey, I'm not the only one that feels this way, that feels lonely, or feels like I'm an imposter, or whatever the right words are. Because even at the top, most of the time when you see leaders that act like they've
mhm,
got it all together, it's an act, right? It's an act. It's a overrepresentation of how they feel. And clearly, there's people that feel like they have it all together. But if you dig down a little bit deeper, we could all use some help, right? We all need help. There's nobody that knows it all. I've never met anybody that
mhm,
actually knows it all. Um, but I've met a few people that think they do. So when we build our groups, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for people that are hungry to grow their business, um, that believe in their people, and they want to do better for them. They're humble, right? They have a bit of humility to them. Nobody wants to be around, uh,
mm,
that narcissistic a hole. Um, and so we don't invite those people to the groups, right? If they already know everything, there's no reason for them to be in our group, and we won't invite them. to ruin it
Mm,
for everybody else. And they tend to be
yes.
kind, right? They tend to be givers. Another book, The Go
Yes.
Giver by Bob Berg, who's a really awesome person. And I highly recommend
I've
that
yeah,
book.
I read it recently.
Um,
It was and I passed it on because
oh,
it was
good.
so good and definitely has you thinking in a different way.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's a whole series. I don't know if you've read the series, but they've got like the Go Giver influencer, the Go Giver sales, or something. So there's like, I think there's 4 or 5
Yeah,
in the
there's
series. Pretty good. When you read it, make sure you reach out to Bob Berg on LinkedIn because he will respond to you.
so, Brandon, when you were
Yeah.
talking about, you giving of yourself to help grow people and build up people, I couldn't help but think, well, who coaches the coach?
Mm. Yeah, that you know what? That's funny you say that because I've been thinking like who is coaching me, and it is my community. It's the people, my small groups. I have I guess 3 small
Mhm.
groups that I sit in, and I call them masterminds. But one of them's through SCN. Like everybody's in my SCN group, and we share problems. We all have different skills, different expertise, but more importantly, we hold each other accountable
That's it.
um, to the things we say we're going to do. And sometimes we have to help each other with that and a little tough love. But I do not have right. Like I had an executive coach in my prior life for
Mhm.
probably about 10 years. Um, the amount that I grew and the amount the people grew that worked for me during that time was definitely exponential. So everybody needs a coach, and actually had a guy. This is a recent story. He's like, "Listen, why do CEOs need coaches?
Yeah.
They're already at the top." I was like, you make a great point. So, do you remember the Dream Team? This is in the '90s, right? They went to the Olympics. The first time that pro basketball
Yes.
players went to the Olympics. It's Michael Jordan and a whole bunch. Charles Barkley. I could probably name them all if we sat here long enough.
They did.
They had a coach. It's so weird that they're the best in the world, and they still needed a coach. And I think that that's just an exaggeration of the
But it drives
point.
it
But
home.
even the pros need to be reminded what?
Yep.
Keep your hands up, right? Or whatever it is. That's a basketball thing. But like everybody needs to be reminded, and sometimes people need to be encouraged. And that team was exceptional. They encouraged one another. They built each other up, and that's what a high performing team looks like. You can have silos, right, of
Yeah.
people that are awesome, right? The Michael Jordan, he was arguably the best in the world at that time, and probably
Mhm.
still is the best in the world. Again, arguably. Um, but then you had all these other people around him that were also, uh, MVPs and Hall of
Yeah.
Famers, future Hall of Famers. But they figured out a way to coexist and to work together to make something pretty special. And that's what business should look like, right? Just you don't it's not just one
Mhm.
person pulling all the weight. It's like all these teams of really high performers that figure out what their strengths are and how to put those together to make
Right.
something truly special. When that happens, it's
Oh
crazy
my gosh,
what you
you
can get
took me
done.
back to a conversation I had. I hadn't thought about it in a minute, but and some of the listeners will know, like, I will tell you 2021 was the most challenging year of my life. And, there was a lot of
Uh-huh.
life changes going on, and financially, it was a struggle as well. But one of the things I kept on the
Yeah.
budget, well, I kept 2 that I felt were just integral, God, words are hard, to my
Yeah.
mental health, and one was my counselor,
Mhm.
and one was my running coach. And I had my executive look at my budget to kinda help me figure things out because, again, I just wanted someone who knew more about finances than me to kinda tell me, "This is good, this is not," and one of the first things he said was, "You gotta get rid of the running coach." And
Smart.
I was like, "I can't." And I'm like, "I'm making it work." And he goes, "Well, why? You just need running shoes." I go, "No, because I have these big, these BHAGs, these big, hairy, audacious goals that I'm going after, and I don't have the training, like not the training, I don't have the knowledge to get me there. My
Right.
coach holds me accountable, and I'm like, and I'm making it work. Like I recognize the value in having a coach to where at the time, I know this wasn't that long ago, but eggs actually used to be like 97 cents a dozen. And yeah, and
Yeah.
so at the time I was, eating eggs to bring the grocery bill down so I could afford the running coach because it was that important to me to have this person on my
Wow.
team
Yeah.
to get me to where I needed to be. But if I didn't recognize the
Yeah.
value in that, it could have been easy to say, yeah, I don't need this right now in my life.
Right. Yeah, and I applaud you for that because there's a lot of people aren't willing to give up certain things to get what they know they
Mhm.
need and want, right? And so you said, "Hey, I'm going to optimize my budget because this is important to me. This helps me grow. This makes me better mentally, physically,
Right.
probably emotionally in so many ways. If you're going through hard times, like running's a way to clear your head. Like I talked about earlier, like what do you do to build that margin? And I think running, cycling, I think you swim a bit
Yeah.
too. I've seen some stuff
Right.
for your Ironman training. And while it's hard, it's also a good place to get out of your head, right? On some, especially your business stuff or relationship things, or things that are, yeah, clearly hard a lot of times.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Brandon, that just it it kind of puts things in perspective. It's like, yeah, it was challenging that whole year, but we got through and as you mentioned, just better for it. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think, my belief is that God puts you through those
Yes.
seasons, right? And I've been through those seasons and in some respects I'm still going
Mhm.
through a season of growth, of trying to figure it out. When you come out of a corporate environment where you have people to do things like
Mhm.
marketing, IT, um, sales, all those kind of things that, my job was to get the plants right, get the engineering right. Environmental health and safety was part of my group. But if I needed a presentation that was branded and looked right, um, marketing helped me make sure that my presentation
Yeah.
was the way it should be. Now,
Yeah.
guess who's marketing? Me. So there's lots of opportunities to learn, and so I feel like I'm actually, to be honest, I feel like I'm coming out of a season of
Mhm.
challenge, and that things are starting to flow. But all through that, I've continued to do hard things. Right, I did the Leadville 100 mountain
Oh my
bike race.
gosh.
I crossed the Grand Canyon twice in one day. That was actually crazy. Um, I don't highly recommend it, but if you wanna run
Uh-huh.
45 miles and have a really long, hard experience,
Yeah,
take friends with you.
exactly.
That's all I can tell you about that. Take friends
Oh
with
my
you.
gosh.
Yeah.
You Yeah.
Take your running
Oh, I
coach.
mean, he'd do it in a heartbeat. That's the whole reason, I got started doing some of these ultra sports, it's like, well, if they can do it, I think I can too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh yeah, you can do it. You can do anything. You got to train your way up to it, right? And sometimes you just got to say it's going
Mhm.
to be hard and embrace the suck. It says it right here on my
Yep.
ID. Along with my emergency numbers, which
Yeah.
hopefully I don't
And
need very often.
so you bring up something that, the song, "You gotta know when to hold them, know when to fold them." And, you spoke to
Yeah, Kenny
yes. And
Rogers.
so you spoke to, once you leave a corporate world, then everything falls to you. But at what point should you acknowledge, not failure, but acknowledge that, okay, this is out of my wheelhouse. I'm not making the strides that I should, and I need to either engage someone to help me or fold. Yeah.
Mm, what a good question. I mean, I think the earlier you can admit that it's gonna not be
Mm.
worth your time. I think if you can. I think you and I were at this conference you talked about earlier. There was a speaker that talked about um, calculating what your time is worth,
Yes.
and I don't know if you remember that, but she talked about, like, if you think your time is worth $500 an hour and you can pay somebody $10 an hour to do a task that you're trying to figure out and it's just complex, why would you not do that? Right. And go and spend your time doing the $500 an hour task. And I think there's some magic to that, but I also think it's hard, right? You got to be like, especially if you're growing or if you have cash
Mhm.
flow issues, you've got to make trade offs. Where are those trade? When are you going to eat eggs, right? And it's not a good analogy anymore because eggs are probably
Yeah.
$7 a dozen, so they're a dollar a piece instead of a dollar a dozen. Um, but yeah, I think you got to really sit down and make a plan and think about what are the important things. How am I going to get it done? Making sure when you meet somebody that you follow up and you do a good job with that, because otherwise they'll
Yes.
forget you.
You know,
And
we
what we do, being
yes,
top of mind
and
helps.
I love that we just keep coming back to community and people, and it's been so heavy on my mind because AI has been heavy on my mind as well, and it's that connection with people that's gonna make you memorable, it's gonna make you stand out, and so many times I went to a networking event last night and, you exchange business cards or, now we can hold our phones up next to each
Right.
other and exchange virtual cards, and it just gets lost in a slush pile, or worse, it gets thrown away in the trash, right? And be intentional. Connect with someone. Don't don't be afraid to have a virtual coffee. I know it's not maybe the
Yeah.
most ideal because being in a room with someone is just amazing,
Right.
but
Yeah.
we have so many tools now at our I don't wanna say disposal, but tools available to just keep connected, and
Right.
definitely 100%. If it's just reaching out after the networking event to say, "Let's have a virtual coffee," 15 minutes, that keeps you fresh in someone's mind and doesn't just build your network, it I don't wanna say sustains it, but it shows that you care. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, what's the point in networking if you're not going to follow
I
up? I
mean,
think is part of it, and I think there's a whole bunch of people out there that would say exchanging business
mm.
cards is useless. Not, I've got a pile here of business cards. I'm embarrassed to show you.
Oh my gosh.
That these are my follow ups from
Mhm.
the last 2 weeks, but um, I think it's more than that, right? It's more than the virtual coffee. It's like, how do
Yeah.
you help people? Um, and I think that's really, you're part of SCN as I am, and one of the things we do is we
Mhm.
have virtual coffees to get to know one another, but as importantly to understand who it is we're
Yeah.
trying to serve and who else serves those people. So you build a community of people that serve the same ideal client. It helps your client, it helps you grow your business, and it helps you stay top of mind. So I think it's the introductions, right? How do you introduce people to others that are going to help them grow their network, their business, and their clients? I think there's some magic, real magic to those introductions, and the people that you meet that are doing the best ones, I could give you a list of. Their business is
Mhm.
also thriving, and it goes back to that whole thing
Yep.
about being a giver, right? That go giver mentality. And it's not your giving to receive, but the law of reciprocation generally still plays out, right? If you make introductions, somebody's going to make an
Yeah. Or just
introduction. And shout out to Bob Burr,
yes.
right?
And I read, Napoleon Hill, and I wanna say it was 15 Laws. I think he's known for Think and Grow Rich, but the book that I read was 15 Laws of
Yeah.
Success,
Mhm.
and he told a story how
Okay.
he took someone's and it was back in the day, right, where it was like newspapers that was the advertising and the marketing and all that, and he took someone's, I believe it was
Yeah.
ad and improved it and showed them how he would do it,
Okay.
and he goes, "Yeah, I took the risk of them maybe stealing it, but at the end of the day, he gave. He gave from his heart, and he said
Yeah.
it was gonna be returned back to me in some form or another. Even if he believed in the good-naturedness of people, so he didn't think they were gonna steal it, but to address someone's point, he goes, "Even if they stole it, God, the universe, a bit higher power would have given it back or returned that to me in some way." So he didn't stress or fret about it,
Yeah.
and that has always stuck with me. It's like, yeah, just and I think that's why I was so receptive to the go-giver mentality, and, like, that's how it is.
Yeah. Yeah, Napoleon Hill. Wow, that's I haven't read any of his stuff in a long time, and I think those books are probably like they
Oh,
gotta be 50 years old.
older,
They're
yeah.
more,
Yeah.
maybe 75. So, yeah, I read Think and Go Rich a long time ago, but I haven't read that one, but it
Right.
stands the test of time, these thought processes. It's not There's nothing new in the universe, they say, but perhaps AI
Well,
has proven that
AI
wrong.
it's generative, so it's learning
Yeah, that's
what
technology.
we've already taught it. Yeah.
Right. It's the speed at which we're able to, get information
Mm.
but not retain it.
Before we leave you, you dropped so many great book recommendations. I'm gonna include them in the show notes, but what are you currently reading?
Ooh, good one. Let's see. So I have 2 or 3 going on right now, and I'll have to think of the names, but, Your
Okay.
10X Mentor is one of them. Grant Cardone is the author of that book. Um, I'm rereading, The
Oh,
Four
that's a good one.
Agreements by Ruiz. Yeah, have you read that one? It's a good I try to read it once a year, and, I guess those are the main 2. I have something I'm reading The Training Bible by Joel Friel. He's got a new
Mhm.
version of that. It's probably like version number 14.
I don't.
If you don't know who he is, he's written the training Bible for triathletes,
Oh,
for cyclists, for runners, probably for
okay.
swimmers too. But it just goes through the different. It's really deep. It's in depth about the type of training you should be doing, the kind of rest, what you should be eating. Eggs are fine. Um, yeah, so those are the three. So one sort of personal growth,
Mhm.
physically, and one's more spiritual, and the other one's about growing business. So I try to do 30 or so books a year, and some of them I listen to, and some of them I've got the hard copy so I can make my notes.
That keeps you well-rounded.
But
So,
yeah,
Brandon, I can't think of
working on
anyone
that.
else to have launched or help with the rebrand of Sweet Mornings to With Hat and Cattle. You are definitely someone who's walking the walk and talking the talk, and we are so blessed that you were able to sit and chat with us. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. I am blessed for being able to be number one on your list today.
Exactly. Thank you again.